Hari Om.
Hari Om sir.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Rio.
Let's start. Om. प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. Okay, we'll chant from verses 5 to 9. Chapter 4, verse number 5 to verse number 9. श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप. श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप. अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यात्ममायया. अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यात्ममायया. यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्. यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्. परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन. जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन. Okay. Where's everyone? Okay. So, are there any questions from chapter 4 or chapter 3? Hanji, Lakshmi ji.
So I have two questions.
Hanji.
One is from verse 4 and one is from verse 1 is from the first portion of the chapter. That
Okay.
is, yeah,
Which one do you want to take up first? First portion of the chapter?
first portion of the chapter. That is the second, how self relates to action.
Okay.
So it's written, the wise regard the self as the inactive principle catalyzing all sorts of actions, be they good or bad, spiritual or material. This line I will put.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I'd like to highlight that it's very important to read the text as well. I'll keep blabbering, I'll say whatever comes to my mind. But of course, when someone has some amount of knowledge, they'll speak sense. But even the sensible require a sharper expression through words, through writing. So, writing is consolidated thought. Speaking is flowing thought, writing is consolidated thought. And a lot of thought has gone into actually writing this material. The words are very deliberate, and a lot of revision has gone into what is said and what is not said. So Swamiji has put in his life's effort to write these commentaries, and as we said earlier, we didn't mention this time that each of these chapters are divided into sections. Now these sections are not in the original Bhagavad Gita. There's no sections as such, right? There are just chapters, adhyayas. But within each adhyaya, within each chapter, just to perhaps better capture the flow of thought, better help a learner understand and follow the chain of thought and study, different commentaries have broken up chapters into various sections. So similarly, Swamiji has broken up, say, this chapter into 6 sections. So these 42 verses have been divided into 6 sections. Self is the eternal teacher, how self relates to actions, etc., etc. So I would urge you all to, since you're already spending so much time in attempting to familiarize yourself with the Bhagavad Gita, in coming and listening to these classes, go a step further. Definitely make sure you take the time out to read, right? Because ultimately study is an internal process. It only begins with listening, but it has to go beyond just physical listening. This is deeper listening. Reading is deeper listening. That's all it is, right? And it aids thinking, it aids reflection, it aids manan. So I would highly urge you to read, just like Rashmi ji is reading every class and coming up with many questions for us. So thank you. The wise regard the self as the inactive principle catalyzing all sorts of actions, be they good or bad, spiritual or material. This is relating to the second section of this chapter, which of course we haven't come to yet. But right now we're in the first section, how the self is the eternal teacher, and we got a sense of that, how based on what Lord Krishna said in the beginning of the chapter, that I have taught it to Vivasvan, and Vivasvan taught it to Manu, and Manu taught it to Ikshvaku, and this lineage has been coming. When the Lord says I, he doesn't mean the person Krishna. The person Krishna, of course, wasn't there when Vivasvan and Manu and all of them were studying Vedanta. What is it that taught them Vedanta? What is it that has been carrying this knowledge from eon to eon? The self is the eternal teacher, and the extent to which an individual unfolds the self, the extent to which an individual becomes enlightened, to that extent they are able to become a medium to convey this eternal knowledge. Right now, I may be speaking mere words, but the impact, the effect, the conviction, the confidence with which I'm able to communicate them, the depth with which I'm able to communicate them to you will totally depend on how much I have unfolded this wisdom within me. If I have only done 10%, 5%, or 0%, these words will not have that much of an impact in terms of a depth, in terms of a they may enamor you temporarily, but beyond a point they won't be able to move you. Whereas the words of enlightened sages live on for thousands of years, be it a Shankaracharya, be it a Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, be it a Vivekananda. How many years? It's been over 120 years since Vivekananda was here, and still we are. It's like he's still speaking to us. So the extent to which an individual unfolds the self, the extent to which an individual transcends his individuality and becomes the self, they become a true teacher of this knowledge. And thereafter, the next section of this chapter will move into how self relates to action. We'll come to that. But for the sake of this question, Swamiji has summarized this section as: the self is the primeval cause for all actions. No being can act without the self. Nevertheless, the self remains immaculate, untainted by the action which it enlivens. Though the self causes all beings to act, it does not interfere with the mode or quality of actions performed, nor is it affected in any way by the result of the actions. So far it's clear? Quite simple and plain English he's tried to explain it in. That the self is the primeval cause, but the self itself doesn't act. Neither is the self affected by the action in any way. So the self is beyond karma as it is. The self causes all beings to act in terms of being the capacity to act, but it does not interfere. What should be done, what should not be done, how should it be done, how should it not be done. The individual is a combination of self, spirit plus matter. It's the matter equipments, the quality of the material equipments, the body, mind, intellect, vasanas, which determine the quality of action, which determine the type of action, which determine what someone does, what someone doesn't do, how they do it, with what intention they do it. All of these things are determined by their matter, vasanas. But what is it that is enabling the action? What is it that is giving power to the action? With what force does this finger move? With what force do these eyes see? Sure, these eyes are seeing right now, no doubt. And these eyes, if they are seeing something entertaining, they will be wide open. If they are seeing something boring, they'll be not so wide open. No doubt the eyes are seeing, but what is that power with which it sees? It's a very philosophical question. We don't think about it. The Kena Upanishad starts with this question: Kene shitam padate preshitam mana Kena prana pratamo praiti yukta. What is it, that power with which the eyes see? What is that power with which the ears hear? What is that power with which the mind feels? No doubt the mind is feeling. The mind has a technology. The mind has a capacity. Here is the hardware, or in some sense a software. Here is the software doing something. What is the programming language behind the software? And what is it that making the programming language also work? You can go back. So Vedanta says in a very, very dissatisfying way that it is the self. It's not answering anything. It's not saying anything. It's a self. The self is the cause. The self is the primeval cause. That is what the self is. Right? So it is the cause, but it has nothing to do with the action. क्या करोगे, कैसे करोगे, कब करोगे, क्यों करोगे, all of that has to do with the material equipments. The self is just the enabler, enlivener, right? Therefore, the wise regard the self as the inactive principle, means itself is inactive. Itself has nothing to do with the action. Inactive principle catalyzing all sorts of actions. Catalyst means that which, in chemistry, catalyst means that which makes a reaction possible.
Accelerates.
Right? Something that either accelerates an action, which a reaction which would otherwise be not possible. A catalyst that which makes it happen. A catalyst is not part of the reaction. In a chemical reaction, a catalyst is not part of the reaction. Nothing changes chemically in a catalyst. Two chemicals reacting, they change their qualities and everything in a chemical reaction. The catalyst is just there. So for those who understand chemistry will understand this word, very deliberately chosen. A catalyst is that which enables slash accelerates slash enlivens a reaction, but itself remains unchanged through the reaction. Similarly, the self, the spirit, is the enlivener, but it's inactive and it's a catalyst. Itself is unaffected by the action, be they good or bad, spiritual or material. The self in a thief will enable a thief to steal. Why? Because the thief's thoughts are going towards stealing. The thief's desires are developing towards grabbing someone else's money. The thief's actions ultimately are a result of their vasana thought desires. Right? So in the chronology of action, there's no self. The self is the enlivener. But ultimately in the chronology of action, what's causing the action is vasana thought desire. As your vasana, so your thoughts, so the desire, be they good or bad. Good vasanas, good thoughts, good desires, noble actions. Bad vasanas, bad thoughts, bad desires, terrible actions, detrimental actions, destructive actions. The self is the same in a sinner or a saint. The self is the same in a thief. The self is the same in a policeman. Sometimes policemen become thieves. Uh, so your goodness or your badness is determined by your vasanas, right?
So you had explained this earlier with example of electricity and petrol also.
So using the
Self is like petrol.
yeah, so using the if I have to take out sure, one of Swamiji's favorite examples is he calls it the Petropanishad. He calls it the Petropanishad. He said, had an Upanishad been written right now, we would have named it the Petropanishad. And what does the Petropanishad say? That the self is like petrol in a car. Slowly, that example is also becoming redundant with electric vehicles. But what does he say? The idea of a catalyst means it's like petrol. Petrol is what, or gasoline, depending on which part of the world you are from. Petrol or gasoline is that which enables a car to function. The petrol has nothing to do with whether the car will move or not move. The petrol sitting in the tank, in the car sitting in your garage, doesn't say, I want to move. I want the car to go somewhere. The petrol has nothing to do with whether the car moves or doesn't move. The petrol also has nothing to do with whether the car moves fast or whether the car moves slow. That depends on the driver pressing the accelerator. The petrol also doesn't have anything to do with whether the car has strong power or weak power. It depends on the engine. The petrol is same in a Swift or a Maruti 800. I don't even know if they make that anymore. And the petrol is the same in a Rolls Royce. Yeah, okay, little bit difference. One will be regular petrol, one will be X95 premium petrol or whatever, but you get the idea, right? Don't split hairs. The idea is the petrol is the same. The expression differs completely in different cars. Why? Because of the nature of the cars themselves. Similarly, the self is the same in all beings, but the expression of all beings differs. Why? Because of their own nature. Some beings are benevolent, some beings are brutal. Some beings are mature, some beings are immature. Some beings are selfish, some beings are vicious, unselfish. Some beings are selfish and vicious, some beings are unselfish and virtuous. Right? So the petrol has nothing to do with whether the car moves or not. The petrol has no desire to move. Similarly, the self has no desire to act. The petrol does not determine what kind of actions are performed, good or bad. The petrol has nothing to do with the outcome of the action also. You can't hold the petrol responsible. Oh, I didn't reach there on time, the petrol is responsible. Oh, the car crashed, the petrol is responsible. Similarly, you can't blame the self for the outcome of your actions. Whether you succeed or you fail, the self has nothing to do with it. The self is just the enabler, Sakshi, the witness to all of this, and the enlivening principle, that with the power with which you act, that which lends your eyes the capacity to see, that which lends your ears the capacity to hear, that which lends your mind the capacity to feel, that which lends your intellect the capacity to think. That enlivening principle is the Atma. Now, what you do with it is up to you. So, how the self relates to action. Okay, second question.
Second one is verse 4.
Hmm.
4, the last paragraph. Krishna means to convey that only enlightened souls can really convey knowledge of the self. Others who fall short of self-realization can, at best, talk about the self. You can impart knowledge of the self only to the extent you have unfolded the self. In this sense, the real teacher of the self is the self, not the individual. Then in the last, it's written, individuals have a limited span of life and they cannot communicate the self. The self alone can reveal self. I've understood partly, but I do want a little explanation on this.
Where was the first section you talked about? Oh, Krishna means to say, power, you can, okay. This is what I was starting the class with, right? The extent to which one has unfolded the self, to that extent only they can communicate it. And no teacher, no tradition, no individual, including in our tradition. Maybe these things shouldn't be said publicly. They can have consequences. But I'll say it nonetheless. No tradition in this world, no teacher in this world, no individual in this world has given out the whole truth. One may say, including Lord Krishna. That doesn't mean that they are imperfect. Individuals have a limitation, they have a limited span of life. Words have a limitation, they have a limited capacity to communicate. The beauty of a poet is the ability to communicate so much with so little. That's the beauty. The beauty of a Shankaracharya is the ability to convey so much through just a few texts. That's the beauty. But yet, no individual can communicate it in its entirety if one were to actually split hairs, right? What they can do is perhaps give you a good foundation, no doubt about it. These spiritual texts, particularly the one which we are reading right now, will give you a solid foundation for your own spiritual growth, for your own spiritual journey, no doubt about it. Nothing better than this. But yet the path has to be walked by you, the discovery has to be done by you, the unfolding has to be done by you. And the extent to which you drive that inner transformation, the extent to which you unfold the self within, that will be your teacher. Your own unfoldment will be your teacher. These words will only nudge you in the right direction, right? These words will act like a catalyst which will help drive that inner transformation. When that inner transformation happens, you'll resonate with these words, you'll find your own words. Perhaps you will write your own Upanishad, as it were, right? Different teachers have come through different ages, written different texts, spoken in a certain language. Every text, it's very important. Why are we studying this? We are studying this, and so many times we are mentioning, here Lord Krishna is speaking to a warrior. Elsewhere in different texts, things are said with a different tone. Sometimes if you read them superficially, they may seem contradictory. Why? Because the student is different. So any text, any individual is speaking to a particular audience. Jesus spoke to a particular audience. Muhammad spoke to a particular audience. Buddha spoke to a particular audience. Krishna spoke to a particular audience. different enlightened sages speak to certain audiences, and invariably their teachings, their words, the body of their the information they try to convey in you know uh, I wouldn't say becomes conditioned in that sense, or is most relevant with their audience. You and I, objectively trying to understand it, have to, of course, adopt that lens. Number one. Number two, these words won't make you enlightened. These words will catalyze your journey, no doubt about it. But as you go through this inner journey, as this sort of reaction happens within you, that will be your real teacher. Your own unfoldment will be your real teacher. As you go through this journey, you will find your own words, your own expression. You will find your own liberation, and that will be the bedrock. That will be your conviction that there is so much truth in this. The truth in Vedanta doesn't come from a Krishna. The truth in Vedanta doesn't come from a Shankaracharya. The truth in Vedanta doesn't come from a Swami Parthasarathi. The truth in Vedanta comes from Vedanta itself. That's not me saying it. If you read Swamiji's Vedanta treatise, that's the first thing he says. Vedanta stands on its own. It's independent, whether people agree with it, whether people disagree with it, whether people follow it, whether people don't follow it. This eternal dharma, beyond the words, beyond the concepts, this truth, it resides within you. And as you unfold it, as you see it, as you realize it, that conviction will only become stronger and stronger. So, the real teacher, your real teacher, all these things, the text, the gurus, the people, your satsang, is all a good catalyst for your journey. But your real teacher will be your own unfoldment. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Thank you for the explanation.
Utsav, this was same thing said in verse 33 also, no? In chapter 3.
I don't know. What was said?
It was explained like Swamiji was saying a teacher can only give you knowledge, cannot give you wisdom. It was about when you take the knowledge and carefully think about it, reflect and absorb, it is your own absorption power that you get the knowledge.
A teacher can take you to the foothills of wisdom, but the mountain of wisdom you have to climb yourself. Right? Through your own reflection, through your own experimentation with this knowledge, and through your own absorption, adoption, seeing it play out in your own life. That's how you will live and learn and develop that conviction. Manan, it's called Manan. Beyond Shravana, you have to do Manana. Hanji, Balaji.
Hari Om Ji. See, you have been talking about the limitation of your guru in getting into the wisdom. But as we study the lives of Shankaracharya, there is a person by name, I do not know, it's Todashtakam is there. He was a disciple of Shankaracharya who was washing his clothes and other things, and who is considered to be a dull student. And it's the story says, I do not know whether you know it, he just walked, the Shankaracharya calls and he walks on the water. And finally he writes a book called Todashtakam. It's a very famous this thing. So also if you look at the Bhakti Yoga, it also says that the Guru Bhakti alone is sufficient for you to realize the God. So I just want a clarification on this. Thank you.
See, this is again, it's very difficult to convey with words. If you've been in the class long enough, we've often said that karma, bhakti, jnana are not separate paths. They are the same journey. And no individual can only do Jnana Yoga, no individual can only do Karma Yoga. There's artificial separations that have been created. You know, of course, we distinguish between the yogas for the sake of understanding, but in all practical sense, it's just one journey. It's yoga. So when someone says Guru Bhakti is sufficient, what does Guru Bhakti entail? In a similar vein, one can say just a single verse of the Bhagavad Gita is sufficient. Just a single mantra is sufficient. For whom? For whom? And
For a qualified person.
what is Guru Bhakti? Guru Bhakti is not, I would like the Guru to answer that question. My Guru answered to me, what is Guru Bhakti? He said, your devotion towards me is in you living this knowledge. Your devotion to me, I don't want any dakshina. Your devotion to me is in you trying to assimilate this knowledge in your life. To him, that was Guru Bhakti. So, we can throw around this term Guru Bhakti is sufficient. Okay, but what does that mean? Right? On a very superficial level, one may think that, oh, it means blindly following what the Guru says. I don't think most gurus will say that. So, in the truest sense, of course, in a very deep sense, Guru Bhakti means removing all sanshaya. You know, there's a word that comes in the Bhagavad Gita, it comes in the end of this chapter also. Sanshaya. Asamshayam. You have to be without sanshaya, without doubt. Be free of doubt. Don't doubt. Have that full trust. It's very deep to have, it's very difficult to have full trust. But the deepest Guru Bhakti is that ultimate trust that here is a person who's walked the path. And what they are saying has the truth of their lived experience. So, while I totally agree with you, Guru Bhakti is sufficient. Why? Because Guru Bhakti is not isolated in itself. Once you achieve a state of Guru Bhakti, it implies that you are already in a very evolved state. You have already let go of a lot of sanshaya, you have already let go of a lot of ego, you have already let go of a lot of, otherwise what one would call impurities in the personality. Right? So Guru Bhakti is not an isolated state. It's a state that comes, if you look at it from a Bhakti lens, you call it Guru Bhakti. If you call it from a Jnana lens, you'll call it something else. You'll call it clarity. You'll call it conviction. Whatever word you want to give it. Right? So the question I would ask is, what is this Guru Bhakti? The question I would ask is, what is this Guru Bhakti and how do I actually achieve it? Right? That's a question worth asking. So I don't disagree with you. And whatever is written by the great sage, no doubt about it. But what is he trying to actually mean? What is he actually trying to convey? What is Guru Bhakti? Can you define it in terms of actions? Can you define it in terms of functioning in the world? Right?
Can I say it is shifting the responsibility of me because my incapability to follow the path and annihilating my ego in that sense and giving that responsibility to the person. See, if you are a rich person, I come for a donation to you, you got the money and you are giving it to me, right? So similarly, I as a limited individual with my own incapabilities or my accumulated vasanas, I'm not able to cross over the samsara. But I know my Guru is one who has crossed over and who has got the capacity to take me also to the other part of it. So I just surrender to him with no likes of me in a way, in a limited sense. Try to understand what I mean. I may not be very.
totally understand what you mean, but to let go of your own ego that I'm going to do this. First of all, what was the first thing you said? What was the first thing you said?
It's annihilation of ego. One has to, one is incapable of doing it. Incapacity or helplessness.
Incapable of doing what?
Doing any yoga to the extent where I can reach it on my own. Bhakti,
Reach what on
karma,
my own?
jnana.
Reach what on my own?
I don't get you.
No, what do you want to reach?
To reach the self or to reach the God.
You develop that desire to reach the self, to reach the God. You just develop that desire. See,
Right.
we are talking about the capacity to reach the self, right?
Correct.
We'll talk about the capacity to reach the self only when we have the desire to reach the self.
Correct.
Okay, I totally agree with you. You and I, we are very incapable. Nature will help you when you help yourself, though. You develop the desire for it. The Lord says, you develop the desire for it. You develop the conviction for it. I'll take you there. So, there's no contradiction. 100% agreement with your statement. 100% agreement with your statement. That, yes, you need the Guru. You need the Guru's grace. You need the Lord's grace to take you to that ultimate frontier. But to go to the ultimate frontier, first we have to develop the desire to go to the ultimate frontier. We are stuck with our desire for iPhones and properties and enjoyments and travels and all sorts of material and sensual desires. This is not coming from a point of judgment. It's a matter of fact. Where is our thought? Do we want the ultimate? Do we want enlightenment? So what Guru Bhakti are we talking about? The Guru is not interested in your Bhakti. Why? Because you have vain desires. You have vain desires, so Guru is not interested in your Bhakti. You elevate your desires. You elevate your vision. You elevate your purpose. You won't have to worry about Guru Bhakti. The Guru's grace is already on you. The Lord's grace is already on you. So, we always want to outsource our effort. No, the first bit of effort has to be done by us. The first step has to be taken by us. I would say the first 4 steps have to be taken by us. After that, we won't have to worry about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry to proceed it. In the Doha of Kabir,
Anji.
it says that when God and Guru comes in front of you, who will you worship first? The Doha says that I'll only worship Guru, and my understanding is that from whoever I have learned is that I was like a child, not even know how, I urinate and I shit on the bed and I do not know, I just cry. So the mother is one who takes care of me from that state. And when I become a person of a doctor or an engineer or going to US, it's my father proudly comes and pats at my back and says to the world that he's my son. So he says that Guru is like my mother. So when I am in a helpless state, he is the person who takes me from there, and God is the person who takes me as takes me into his darbar when I become a beautiful flower. So he refers that Guru is a person who comes to you from a helpless state to that level where God accepts you.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And let me also tell you that the Guru is not going to be one person. Right? Your Gurus are the gift of God. God will give you several Gurus on your journey. It's not a person. It could be a stranger. It could be a book. It could be an experience.
Now, for me, it is the knocks and shocks.
Knocks and shocks, however you want to say it. Ultimately, and what is this section we're studying right now? What is this section trying to convey? That the Guru, the ultimate Guru, the real Guru, the self is the Guru. The self is the teacher. Right? All things, beings, people, experiences are only nudging us towards realizing a truth which already resides within us. right? So the work we have to do is to see where we need to see. Are we willing to look at it? Are we pushing ourselves to actually see the truth within us? Are we developing those higher desires, those higher interests, as opposed to preoccupying ourselves with mundane, fruitless things, right?
Thank you.
Hanji, Ritu ji.
Utsav ji, so basically, I wanted to ask, you just mentioned that our goal has to be, it is to achieve self, and talking about the appropriateness of goals. So it often comes to my mind that reaching the self, of course, I mean, it's just a thought that I'm sharing aloud, that uh, isn't it the journey that would be more important than the goal? Sometimes I often think that, again, going to the goal would be selfish, just wanting the goal.
Yeah,
But walking that path, living that journey, a selfless journey, would perhaps be more important.
no doubt about it. But to have a journey, you have to have a goal. Otherwise, you're just meandering around, right? So the goal is like it's like a, um, you know, it gives a direction to our journey, right? The goal helps set the path. And no doubt, once you set the goal, you don't become anxious about the goal. You don't develop a sense of result orientation. No doubt, that's the very fundamental knowledge of karma yoga, right? But that doesn't, uh, you know, un- the purpose of the goal is not underestimated by that, right? The goal is still very much important to articulate, and forget the goal of enlightenment and
Yeah.
self-realization, all these things. Okay, pick up a goal which is which makes sense to you, which sings to you, right? Keep this at the back of the mind, but at the same time, pick up something which seems relevant to you in your life, and that'll help, set the chart, set the path of sort of activity, the journey for you. And no doubt, then the journey is the most important. The journey is the most enjoyable. The journey will be most, gratifying in that sense. No doubt about that. Okay,
Thank you so much.
verse number 5. श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप. So in response to Arjuna's question, the Lord answers. Arjuna's question was, later was your birth, and earlier was the birth of Vivasvan and Manu and Ikshvaku. So then how am I to understand that you taught this in the beginning? What does that mean? So the Lord answers, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the blessed Lord said, many births of mine and yours have passed by, O Arjuna. I know them all while you know not, O Parantapa. O conqueror of enemies, O scorcher of enemies, O Parantapa, big and mighty. When it comes to birth and death, you are not big and mighty. You don't know how many births you've been through. You don't know. Before Rashmi, you were Puja. Before Puja, you were, I don't know, Jessica in some other culture. Before Jessica, you were James. You were some other gender. Before James, you were not even a human. Maybe you were a monkey or something. You've been through many births. Many births of mine and yours have passed by. You've forgotten it all. And you forgot what happened day before yesterday. How will you remember what happened in your last birth? And when people will read this verse, then they'll be like, okay, let's do past life regression. Let's do past life analysis. Please. You manage this life. Don't get your past life complications. Okay. First of all, God knows whether it's possible or not. Even if it's possible, I urge you, please, don't play with fire. There's a reason there's Apohanam. There's a reason why nature makes you forget. There's a reason you're not meant to remember. So many births of mine and yours have passed by. You are a result of all your previous births and all the previous choices. This is the straightest, strongest reference to reincarnation in the Bhagavad Gita. In no uncertain terms. The idea of reincarnation, in no uncertain terms. He said it, as it were. Many births of mine and yours have passed by. O Arjuna, you have any idea? Your birth wasn't the beginning, your death will not be the end. Your birth wasn't the beginning, your death will not be the end. You have come from somewhere and you will carry on somewhere else. This thought is a very empowering thought. This thought is a very empowering thought. This idea of reincarnation is perhaps one of the strongest thoughts we can clutch to develop a spirit of detachment. When we understand that we are on a journey and so is everyone else, our loved ones, our not so loved ones, we're all on a journey. And our intersection is just for perhaps a certain period of time. While we're together, let's play our part to the best of our ability. Let's make it an experience to remember. But ultimately, when you come, I have no control over. When you go, I have no control over. I'm sorry, I need to take this call just once. My apologies. So your birth wasn't the beginning, your death will not be the end. It's one of the strongest thoughts to help us develop a spirit of detachment, to play our part to the best of our abilities, and ultimately develop that understanding that we are not in control when things come into our life, nor are we in control when things go from our life. I saw a very interesting movie the other day. I'll urge you all to watch it. It's a slightly, I would say it's dark humor, but it's like a sci-fi comedy. It's called Mickey 17. Mickey 17. It's a movie, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. It's a movie where humans have developed that technology by which they can download an entire human into a hard drive, and then when the body dies, they just reprint another version. 3D printing of a human being.
What was the name?
Mickey 17. Mickey, Mickey 17. I think it's Mickey 17. Such possibilities, which again are at the frontier, they try to push our understanding, they challenge our understanding about life and death. And of course, we'll have to develop a new way of conveying this thought of birth and death when such technologies are going to be available to us. And I don't have a doubt they will be, maybe soon. to some extent at least. But nonetheless, your birth wasn't the beginning, your death will not be the end. However you die, even if you are reprinted. It's a question, you know what the funny thing in this movie is? So Mickey 17, the movie is called Mickey 17 because Mickey's been printed 17 times. Mickey's died 16 times and then he's printed 17 times. And then, so Mickey 17, he knows he's an expendable, right? Expendable means someone who can be expended with. They send him to do all the difficult tasks and all the terrible things. They do all sorts of terrible experiments on him. You know, you may wonder, oh my God, how cruel. We are doing it with mice and other creatures today. You know, all sorts of cruel experiments. They expose him to terrible gases. They expose him to radiation. They expose him to etc. etc. So many versions of Mickey have, you know, they test very dangerous, medicines and drugs on him. So many versions of Mickey have come and gone. So this is Mickey number 17. Now Mickey number 17 is out on a mission where they are going to. So they are on a different planet. They are on a sort of, space mission essentially. And so they've reached different planet, and then there Mickey is going to explore the planet's surface, right? And going to explore some of the creatures they have noticed in the planet. So the assumption of humans is that those creatures are going to kill Mickey. So what happens is Mickey goes missing, there's some accident happens, and he falls into a crevasse, and the assumption is that Mickey's dead. So people on the ship, what do? They print another Mickey. They print Mickey 18. But Mickey 17 is safe. And those creatures on the land, they find Mickey 17 and they don't kill him. Right? In fact, they're very nice creatures. They help him out of his predicament. They help him from, he's fallen into like a crevasse. They help him from that and they take him out, and he's able to safely reach back into the spaceship. So now you have two Mickeys, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18. Which is Mickey? So you may ask me, I'm not going to die, I'm going to be reprinted. Well, which one is you? What if there's two of you? Who's you? Are you number 17 or are you number 18? So of course, as these technologies are going to become available to us, the very idea of who am I is going to get more and more complex. People will be more and more forced to study and contemplate these things. And that's when a lot more people will come to Vedanta, I'm sure. Right? Because these questions they'll be helplessly forced to ask this question. But no doubt, watch the movie, it'll be fun. But no doubt, endless birth, numerous births, innumerable births of yours and mine have passed, O Arjuna. Right? So this is not the first incarnation, this won't be the last. I know them all while you know not. Again, when Lord Krishna is saying, I know them all, he doesn't mean the person Krishna. He's continuing to speak from the vantage point of the self. Just as he said, I taught this to Vivaswan, I taught this to Manu, he's continuing to say, I know them all. What does he mean? The self knows them all. The self is the only constant through all these incarnations. In the previous incarnation, you had a different body, a different mind, but the same self. In the previous incarnation before that, you had a different body, a different mind, a different intellect, but the same self. So the self is that which is Sakshi, witnessed to all incarnations. If you are able to get to the vantage point of the self, you will develop that peripheral vision of the entire cosmos. You'll have a vision of all of creation, as it were, from the past to the future, from one birth to another, from beginning to end. See, there are so many, what could be a practical explanation of this? I don't know. It's very difficult to conceive this. But then you have incredible things like the Brihu Samhita. You know the Brihu Samhita? I don't know what it is, and I don't know. It's just a marvel that something like that exists. Hmm? According to the sage Brihu, who is in some sense able to, given your coordinates, your birth, death, etc., your time of birth and stuff like that. Um, apparently, if you go to a knowledgeable person in this field, they're able to tell you a lot of insights about your life, not only of what has been without having any idea, but to some extent what may be also. The question is not whether it is correct or incorrect. That's not the question. I'm not qualified to answer that. But the very fact that something like this exists is incredible. Who was Brihu? I can only relate it to a verse like this and say, oh, Brihu was someone who was enlightened or perhaps close to enlightenment. And in that sense, they developed a capacity to have this all-encompassing vision of what has been and what will be for all beings, not just for oneself, but for all beings. So I know them all, says Brihu. I know them all, says Krishna, while you know not. Why? Because you are stuck in this individuality, in this ego. As you transcend the ego and become the self, you also will know them all. And even on the journey, forget reaching the self, even on the journey, as you grow, as you develop, you'll develop a more panoramic view of life. You'll develop a more panoramic view of the cosmos. You'll have a deeper insight into the nature of reality, into the nature of the mechanics of life. Right now, you are literally just looking beyond your nose. You're just stuck in your previous experience and your next experience. You're caught up in this. But as you grow detached and become enlightened, to that extent you'll develop this peripheral vision, this panoramic vision of life. So many births of mine and yours have passed. This is not the beginning. I, the self, was there to teach Vivaswan and Manu. I know them all. I'm here conveying this to you. But you're stuck in this ego. You're stuck as this individual. So you know not, O Parantapa. Your vision is limited. Mystical verse, very, very mystical verse. It forces us to think. But regardless, it's one of the strongest references to the theory of reincarnation. The theory of reincarnation, we call it a theory because it can't be proved, at least not in the scientific experimental methods that you and I know of today. But yet, it is a very, very powerful thought. And a theory may not be proven, but a scientist may have conviction in their theory. Similarly, it may be a theory in the eyes of the world, but for a sadhak who is walking the path, for a sadhak who has perhaps grown to some extent, as they grow, their conviction in this concept of reincarnation only grows stronger and stronger, right? There's no other explanation for it. So as you grow on your journey, no doubt your conviction in reincarnation and its power as a tool of detachment will only grow in you, right? So keep these thoughts with you, keep thinking about them, juggle with these ideas, and they'll sink into you, no doubt. With that thought, we'll conclude today, and we'll take up, I think Ankit had a question or Prachi had a question. We'll take up that question.
No, actually, I was asking this only that how come, like you almost explained it, how come Krishna is saying that I have had many births, because since we say after self-realization you're not born again, but then he's not talking about himself, he's just referring to the self.
Indeed.
There was a self which had a birth. I'm not exactly clear, but yeah, I've got the concept. I can't explain.
Thank you for the admission. I'm also not entirely clear, if you ask me. after 50 years.
Yes.
Any other questions? If not, chutti, Ali chutti. Have a good day and have a good next couple of days. We'll see you day after tomorrow at the same time. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sajid.
Hari Om.